I fell on my ass. I thought I got to the top of Mount Everest, and Mount Everest just fucking slide right underneath me, man. I was like, God, dog, I gotta start from scratch again. Literally, man. So going up, going down, going up, just the real raw version of how it was so in depth to go back through your life with a fine tooth comb. That's what you understand, man. Like, even me right now to talk to you, I'm in the car for a fucking hour getting pumped up because I'm a shy, introverted, leave me alone type of guy. Like, I'm still that motherfucker who is, at a play who can't say his line because I know I'm gonna stutter in front of 5 people. So I walk off the stage. That's still me. So every day I'm fighting that dude. So people think, oh my God, man, you're on a podcast, you look so crazy, so evil. No, I'm trying to be locked into Joe. I'm not sadistic, man. I'm focused on what I have to do to stay locked into the game of life. And that's why I tell people, man, I go there. And I'll tell you this, I started really realizing that when I started overcoming myself, I started getting around these real alpha males, these hard men. And I always put people way above me when I was growing up. Like, my God, they had to have a lot more than me to get to where they're at. And a lot of them did. But once you get around the best of the best people, you can kind of start breaking them down and realizing, man, you're just as fucked up as me. Like we all have, but all you did was you hit it better. Your upbringing, your mom and dad, your society, the way you were raised, it hit it better than mine. So it started giving me courage through watching people that we all have a story. We all have a jacked up life in one way or another. Some of us don't have the guts to talk about it though. And that's where I found the guts to talk about mine.
Well, there's purity in physical pursuits, right? Because it doesn't matter what your social status is. It doesn't matter how people perceive you. When it comes down to how long can you stay in that pool, when it comes down to how far can you run, right, when it comes down to how much can you push yourself past the part where you want to quit, right, how far can you keep going? There's a purity in that. It dissolves social order, all that bullshit, what people think about you goes out the window. It's who are you right now?
That's right.
Who are you right now?
That's a true statement, man. And I look at it as psychological warfare. And that's where I started learning that life is one big psychological warfare that you play on yourself. The most important conversation I ever have is with myself. And it starts to be what you say to yourself every single day. And I started creating a whole nother warfare. I was like, oh, hang on a second, Goggins. You have these tools. Your life was basically the perfect grounds for training for where you need to go in your life. All the beatings, all the bullying, all the, you going through learning disabilities, all the struggles, it was the absolute perfect training ground for you to go to where you need to go. And that's how I started looking at my life versus woe is me, kick a rock down the street mentality. God just hooked you right the fuck up. The perfect place. You were training for the first 18, 19, 20, you were training for this stuff, man. You have the advantage of everybody else versus, my God, they're so above me. They came from a great family. They didn't struggle. No, man, your struggle is what made you who you are now. So I started being a master of what I was scared of. I was scared of my mind. And I became literally a master of that mind. And that's what from now on, it sets me apart from most people. I started diving into that. I used to look at my life from a different vantage point. And when you're in all the muck and you're just walking in muck, you don't see that if you look off to the fucking left of the muck, there's a sidewalk, brother. Get off of it. You have your head down looking in this muck. Once I saw the sidewalk, I got a little break. And I got a different vantage point. And then from the sidewalk, I found a cliff. Then I found a mountain. I got way up high on top of my life and looked back down on it and said, okay, I got to figure this out, man. I'm not going anywhere. I started lying about everything. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be accepted in some society of life, some social society. I was like, man, this isn't the right way. I messed up here. I messed up everywhere. And so I realized the worst thing that happened to me is I lost myself. I never had myself. I never found myself. I had no self-esteem. So I knew through working out and through learning, it took a lot for me to learn also. I started finding self-esteem. Once I found that, that's when doors started opening up. I stopped caring about people, what they thought, being judged. Wow, if I say this, are you gonna make fun of me? I stopped caring about that. And that's when my life started really changing for me, slowly but surely.
That's such an important point when you're talking about the working out, because a lot of people, when they think about working out, they think of it as being a physical thing.
People always say, my God, like, no, don't look at it like, I didn't care about losing weight. I didn't care about being the fastest person. I wasn't making the Olympics. I wasn't going to pros. I could barely read and write when I was in a junior in high school. I wasn't going anywhere. I saw working out as a way for me to build calluses on my mind. I had to callus over the victim's mentality. So I always equated training to mental toughening. Like, it always looked brutal. People waking up early and doing all these things, and it looked horrible. I was like, wow, man, I gotta start doing that. Not to get better, bigger, and stronger, but that is what's gonna build me. That looks uncomfortable. That looks brutal. And getting up early, I don't wanna do that. So I made this long list of things that I don't wanna do. And through that, I found myself. I'm like, you guys are getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, running over here in this golf course. So I started seeing myself very differently than the average human being. I was like, hold on a second. I have something they don't have. And that's when I started to develop these things through working out. It was this great, never-ending work ethic. And through work ethic, I developed self-esteem.
Now, is this something that you learned? Is this something you learned yourself from exercise yourself? Or is this something you had read or heard about?
So I never read anything. You know, I could barely read, you know, so
Right.
I wasn't reading back then. I watched a lot of movies, and I was really big into visualization. And I always equated working out to struggle. I struggled my whole life, but I ran from it. So I started realizing, man, I gotta start facing the struggle, and I gotta be mentally strong. So that's why I started coming up with, like, I'm training for life. Mentally, I'm training for life. I'm not training for, like, to lift 400 pounds. And I found out on my own pretty much, is that through discipline, through self-discipline, through repetition, through tons of repetition of the same thing that you don't want to do, and that's the key thing. Through repetition of things you don't want to do, you develop mental armor for your mind. Your mind's like, okay, we suffer every day. It's what we do. We do stuff that sucks every day. So then when the suck stuff comes, you're ready for it. And that's how I started coming up. You know, I just started being very uncomfortable. And now it's like just a way of life.
It's a crazy thing to figure out, though. It's like that you figured it out, and you didn't just figure it out, you embraced it. Like, you just decided to not be a fucking loser.
Right.
And to start tightening up and start holding yourself accountable and get ready for things.
There's been this unrelenting voice in my head. We all have this voice. It's the right or wrong voice. And a lot of times that voice guides us into comfort. And my voice guided me into comfort a lot. But I had this other voice. I heard saying, hey, motherfucker, what are you doing? We gotta go over here. We gotta go over here to that rock pile over in the fucking corner where nobody's at. That's where victory's at. We're over there in that corner. So I wasn't a real smart kid growing up, but I had this crazy voice in my head saying, over there is where the fucking answers are. And I didn't want to listen to it because over there was pain. Over there was me looking in the mirror. Over there was me being accountable for all these things I went through my life. Even though people put them on me, it's now mine to own. And I didn't want to go over there by myself, but I had to. And this voice was guiding me there. It's God, whatever you want to call it. But that's what it was in me.
Do you think that's just what when you separate yourself from your ego and what your insecurities and all like, if you were giving yourself advice, you would say that's what the thing is to do. So do you think that's what it was, like your subconscious, or you stripped away from all the bullshit when you couldn't lie to yourself because it's a voice in your head?
That's exactly it. I was trying to find myself through a character. I was off, man. I was a clown, and I was like, this is not where you're supposed to be in life, man. I would sit at home, instead of studying, I would think about, what can I do to impress the motherfucker?
Wow.
And that became my life. And that is a long road to hoe to get to the guy who says, now, you don't ever smile on any podcast. You look so serious. I look at that shit, I'm like, you motherfuckers have no idea who I am, where I've come from to get here today. But you have to learn to laugh at yourself too. Once you go through that shit, think about it. I was a 36 black guy to go through SEAL training, okay?
Out of how many people?
You're looking at probably 11, 12, like, to make it through, probably 13,000 SEALs. I was probably the 36, I was the 36 black guy to make it through, and over since like the 1940s, you know, you're looking at almost 70 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so you know, do the math on that. So there's not a lot of black guys.
Yeah.
You know? So imagine them getting your hands and feet, tying your ass up and throwing you in the fucking water and say, swim. It was like throwing a cat in the water with fucking a brick on him. So I was just losing my fucking mind. So it's so many things I had to get over, you know, and I found humor. I found humor in my suffering. I was like, motherfucker, what are you doing out here, Goggins? Like, this is crazy. You're literally trying to reinvent the wheel. I was trying to reinvent my mind. And I used every single tactic possible to do that. I didn't want to live in this world where I was a fake human being anymore. And I was tired of blaming everybody for where I was at. But I had to. You can't live with hate. You cannot move forward So when I was going back through my life trying to fix who I am, the fucked up person I was, you gotta find out the origin of where all this shit began. So I had to go back to where, you know, my roots and the origin of all this happened, and it's hard to do that. So I had become a medieval motherfucker at that time. I was 22 and I was the big boy, and so I was no longer the guy who was afraid. But I had to make peace with it in myself. I could not hold on to that hate, because holding on to that hate was half the reason why I kept falling into the same pattern of failing. I had to start dumping off some baggage. I had to start figuring out me. A lot of people have situations where someone does something and we all attack that person, like on the media. If someone does something wrong, everybody now is fucking perfect. And we now judge this guy. I don't judge anybody. What I do is I start studying them. Why did they do that? Not in a judging way. I want to learn from you. So if you never fix yourself, the next person in line is going to get the rat.